Hello, people, I'm back. After 40 days on vacation, I am back. I have a lot to share. I am changing some things in here. As you can see, the background, moving some things. Let me try this. Okay, nice. Very Japanese. Yes, I spent 40 days in Bahia, Brazil, which by the way is my hometown. After 2 years living in Japan, I went back to see family. And it was great. My grandmother has this house in an island there, and it's in the edge of the island. This is a place that's very special to me from my childhood. I used to go there all the time, and then when I left my state, I just stopped going there because it's a bit cumbersome. You have to take a ferry to cross to the island, then go by car to the edge of the island. It's literally the name of the place translates to edge of the island. And my grandmother has a house there, and several things had changed. It was interesting to see that, but several things hadn't changed. I went to the beach there. The beach at that part of Bahia is just spectacular because there are almost no one, and it's a bay area, so it's very calm. There are some tides, of course, but there are no waves in the beach there. Feels like you're in paradise. There's no one. It's scorching hot, but it's amazing. And the food, oh my god, I cannot even start talking about the food, but I ate a moqueca de aratu there, which is a stew made of crab. I don't know how to explain it, but I'm probably gonna put an image here somewhere. And man, this thing is just, you cannot find something like that in Japan. Japan has very good crab, and I like crab, but that thing is just unbeatable. It's not even fair to compare, but also very caloric. Anyway, but I am not really here to talk about food or the places. If you guys want, I can make a video about this, about the top places to go in Bahia, top food to eat in Bahia. But this is not a video about that. This is a video about something that happened when I went to the island. And it was that something didn't change. And the thing that didn't change was that we spent a whole day without power. Not only without power, without even internet. Like, there was no reception. It was like in the beginning of the day, we just suddenly lost reception. There was no Wi-Fi in the house, so we relied pretty much on the 5G network. That worked okay-ish, I would say. And then suddenly it was gone. We could not even make phone calls anymore. And people were like, okay, this is strange. And then it started raining and the power was out. And it stayed like that for the most part of the day. I think I only came back in the night. I was in this place of my childhood, and suddenly it felt like it was in my childhood again, without internet. When I was like 5 or something, I used to go to the place, and we was just to talk and play games and do these kinds of things, and suddenly that became the only option again. Social media, you can talk, the internet, talk about this idea of being connected all the time. How we fool ourselves on thinking that we are connected, or thinking that we have something to do, even thinking that we are being productive. I could be, I don't know, checking email or doing other things. And you know what? It would not have made any difference. That day without internet, I will probably remember more than the other days that I had during the trip. Because what happened that moment was that in the beginning, people were just like frustrated and things like, oh yeah, there's no internet. Let's try to do something else then. Okay, so let's go to the beach, or so the house needs some care. The house is a bit old, so maybe we could replace this toilet, or, and people started being extremely like working on the house and cleaning things, and it was crazy to watch. And so it's like there was an urge to do something because we didn't have the internet anymore. It was, we suddenly had to find something else to do. And the craziest thing happened, that without internet, we connected. We started playing games and talking, and some people are getting pretty frustrated. I cannot check my bank account. I cannot see if the message that I was waiting for arrived or something. The few moments that the internet was arriving, people are not checking their bank accounts. Or maybe they check, but then soon after they will go to social media, try to distract themselves. And I think for me, the point that was happening there is that we were so bored that we actually had a meaningful time, more meaningful than if it didn't happen otherwise. Does it make sense? Does it make sense? I think that what happened there is very linked with things that I talk here in the channel, with things that many people have been talking throughout the internet, that we have to be more intentional about our connected time, about what is it that we do in the internet. Because there's so much information that you can just consume and consume and consume and not actually do anything. I would say even that you probably feel worse, more worried. I think that being bored might even be a good sign, because it is probably a sign, a strange sign, that you are hearing the voice inside your head that is saying, I don't like this situation, or I don't like this. It might be a feeling, it might be an urge. Whenever we hear those thoughts in our day-to-day lives, we eagerly go to our phone and then just appear. When actually the problem is that the signal of being bored is the signal that you want to say something to yourself. Being bored is only being with your own thoughts. And that, my friend, for some people might be very scary. For some people, being only with their own thoughts can create anxiety, can be unbearable even. Because being bored is facing all the things we might be avoiding during our days. That's actually what some doctors say about how to deal with bad sleep. You get very anxious when you are going to sleep because you were forced to connect with all the thoughts that you've been ignoring all day, all the pain or all the anxiety. The point here is actually very simple, is to acknowledge that, I think, as I am doing right now. Maybe I'm doing right now this exercise of remembering about my trip and thinking that, oh boy, we were bored back then, and that was so crazy. It's not that the problem is being bored by itself. Like, you can get bored. It's more about the dependency, or as I said, the anxiety, the issues that are uncovered. Anyway, this is why I was getting so worried. Let me actually put my screen to record here, because something very interesting happened at that same week. I started thinking about this idea of being bored, and like magic, it feels like the algorithm was sending me information about this. To be honest, I don't even think it's the algorithm actually. It's just that people feel the same way. There was this thread here on this embedded. It was a very interesting reading. There was this Emma Weaver. She did this post, I miss having a sharper brain. I don't know how to fix it. My attention span sucks. It's hard for me to read books. My memory is horrible and it's hard to retain information. I miss reading, but I literally can't read. I feel so stupid. What do I do? And this post had almost 40 million views. And this is not an isolated phenomenon. I think that in the beginning of social media many years ago, I remember that the goal really felt like, at least social media was about being connected with other people, especially people that you knew, and then you could feel a little bit more connected than like even see another part of their lives online. I don't think social media is bad by essence. I just think that what is being prioritized is not that connection anymore. What is being prioritized is getting your attention. But anyway, thousands of people quoted her to let her phone was to blame, but this is not actually the answer. Like, it's a very bad answer just say, oh yeah, drop your phone. Again, I don't think social media, I don't know, Twitter or any kind of things, I don't think they are useless. I think they can be useful. It's again a matter of being intentional about it, intentional about how you use your phone. You can use your phone in so many ways. It's such a powerful tool. We forget that we were never actually educated on how to use these things to make them useful. You can get a lot of information. This can be very cool and useful, much more useful than, I don't know, having to manually check an encyclopedia. But at the same time, you might get a lot of useless information that might exist just to make you feel something. So going back, there is no theory or to learn or science to practice. You don't have to do anything to fix your attention span. You just have to be bored. I think it's an interesting take. But at the same time, it is not that simple. Especially if you're talking about someone that is really addicted. I think the first step to do this, to this idea of getting bored, as I said here, like we're watching this video, it's acknowledging it. Acknowledging that, oh my God, this thing is taking control of my life. I don't have control of it. This thing is not really informing me. It's very mindful exercise. Going to social media or going to a news network or whatever you want in the internet, reading some piece of content, even this video, and just analyzing, how do I feel? Or what is it made for people to feel? Is this content made to make people feel angry? Or is this content made to make people feel aroused? Boredom is when life happens. Boredom is when life happens because it's when you are actually paying attention. If you don't pay attention to whatever happens in your life, you have no memory. And if you have no memory, there's no life. I wouldn't even say that you have to be bored. My opinion is that you have to be focused on what you are doing. The brain wants to focus. It does not like to be bored, but it wants to focus on things. It wants to focus on that archery class that you were so excited about. It wants to focus on a game or on a book. And yes, the book can be bored and maybe your mind wanders away. And the mind wanders away because it wants to focus on something that is interesting, that has a value, that has a meaning. So I would just complement this. Life happens whenever you put your mind to the present moment. Otherwise, it's a bunch of forgettable things. And the point again is not even remembering everything. Make something meaningful enough that you will want to remember. When you do the things that make you feel like you have life under control. She uses the word boredom here for this. And yeah, I just don't think the word boredom is the one that fits. I think boredom has to do with it, but having your life under control is about this idea of intention. Being intentionally bored is something that is possible, but you don't have to be bored only. Because I think the message here, in a sense, is saying that life has to be boring. If boredom is when life happens, then life has to be boring. There's this concept in Aristotle philosophy about the idea of work versus leisure. Of course, there was no internet in Aristotle's time. What she was talking about boredom fits very close to the idea of leisure. Aristotle's philosophy is that when you talk about life, the quality of our leisure is more important than the quality of our work. He divided life into work and leisure, being that leisure is the goal of all life, while work is things that we have to do or we are forced to do. In work, you are forced to be busy and life just goes by and you forget. You don't exist because there is no memory of it, in the sense that there is no memory in the long term. If every time you use social media feels like the same, if every time you go to work feels like the same, it's not really living because there is no major meaning to it. Besides, of course, what you get from the work. I'm talking more about the philosophical part from this point of view. At one extreme, you can find workaholism, where people let their work absolutely define meaning in their lives. Their leisure time is simply eaten away by more work or by thinking about work. At the other extreme, we find those who forgot work so thoroughly they spend all their leisure time distracting themselves with physical pleasures or meaningless entertainment. See how the guy thought about this over 2,000 years ago? And unfortunately, in the middle of these extremes lies perpetual anxiety, guilt for not being more productive, and guilt for not being more fun or more social. So we are screwed, yes, welcome. While there are a lucky few who are able to derive genuine fulfillment and personal growth from work, many unhappily find themselves somewhere on the spectrum between pointless workaholism and unconstructive recovery. Turn again to Aristotle and we find the solution lies not in viewing work or recovery as ends in themselves. Rather, they should be viewed merely as the means by which to further constructive leisure. For it is in leisure, not in work or recovery, that the true beauty and meaning of the human condition can be found. Amusements and distractions have their place, but they do not constitute true leisure. Hannah Arendt also argues in her discussion of how meaning is being replaced by productivity. The more we conceive ourselves primarily as workers, the more we will treat our own lives and those of others from a merely instrumental point of view. If we want to find more fulfillment in life, we need to create room for other conceptions of what it means to be human. And I think that is a very important point for society in general, for you, for me. There's this idea of work, there's something that you don't want to do necessarily, but, or at least you don't want to do it all the time, but it's important in a biological sense to sustain your individual life. And on the other hand, there is also the recovery time, but that is also part of the work cycle. The idea of just spending some time just finding physical pleasures or meaningless entertainment. And that is what generates all the more trouble, because in this cycle, there is no time for actual leisure. And leisure, this spending time with the greater ideas. What are the greater ideas then? The greater ideas are your dream, are the things you actually want to do in your life, in your limited time in the world, as you want to put it. The greater ideas is the essence of the self, of yourself, of your life. I came to Japan. People said it's a mistake. People said it's strange. Of course, I'm doing my PhD here, so it's work, but it's something I want to do. It is something I want to do because I love doing research. And even though it feels like work, sometimes it also feels like leisure. Like I am building meaning. Even if they don't create a financial, direct financial result, to be honest, don't do your PhD if you want to be rich or something. Do your PhD because you want to. But going back, pay attention to what is going on, to what is controlling you, and to what is it that you can control. As Kate said, boredom is when you do the things that make you feel like you have life under control. As Aristotle said, fulfillment, genuine fulfillment, comes from doing the things you want to do. And the thing you want to do might be simpler than you think it is to achieve. There is a plan. The plan starts at acknowledging that being bored is never the problem. The problem is being with yourself, because there are things you might want to say, but you might not want to hear. As always, thank you for watching. And if you want to know more about intention, I have this other video here. Bye bye.